Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and today I want to talk about 5 different exercises for hamstrings that you may or may not know of or may have forgotten, and which if you add to your hamstring training and your leg training could make your development a lot better in your legs and give your training a bit more interest and make it more enjoyable for you. Ultimately, if you enjoy your workouts, you generally tend to do them a bit more and put a bit more effort into them. Nobody likes training in a boring workout. Now, I own a gym and I see a lot of people, and I've seen, this is not just in my gym, this is gyms across the country that I've been to as a guest or whatever, and people when they're doing hamstring training generally tend to think about it as a last thing. So they will generally do things like quad training, or like a quad day or leg day, and the hamstrings will be like one of the last things they put in, because a lot of people aren't really aware what to do with hamstrings. Most people understand that you've got to do some sort of leg curl, so that's what they do. Some people do things like RDLs because they know that doing RDLs is quite good. But actually, generally, I find that people don't really do a lot of variation with hamstrings because it is a sort of a difficult exercise, a difficult muscle group to really hit from different angles. However, there are a lot of different things you can do, and I have a good library of exercises I use with clients and I use myself. And when I used to compete, I used to do hamstrings on a different day, on a separate day, and that allowed me to focus in and do 4 or 5 exercises on hamstrings to get really good leg development, really good hamstring development. Whenever I was on stage, I always had good separated hamstrings, and I do believe that's because of all these other exercises I did. So I'm going to run through some different ones today. This is not intended to replace your main core of hamstring exercises. So if you are doing hamstrings, if you are training hamstrings, I should say, you should have potentially some sort of curl in there, some hamstring curl. Lying leg curl is generally the one I tend to use, or seated leg curl. And you should also have some sort of deadlifting type movement, some straight leg stretch type movement. So something like RDLs with a bar or sumo deadlifts with a bar is a great addition for hamstrings. So you should have a core exercise that you do to build up strength, but these are intended to sort of support that and give you new angles, new directions, and just a different feeling in your workout to make it more interesting. So we're going to run through 5 of them. There are others. I know this is not intended to be these are the 5 best ones. It's just 5 exercises you might like to do. So the first one is mermaid curls. Now, mermaid curls, I'm quite sure there is another name for them. However, I like to refer to them as mermaid curls because it's easy to remember. Now, the reason they're called mermaid curls, and if you're watching, you'll see the video here. If you're listening to the podcast, you probably do need to watch the video to get this. But mermaid curls, think about Ariel the mermaid on the rock. That's the position you need on the lying leg curl machine. So normally when you go on the lying leg curl machine, your quads, your thighs will be on the pad, you'd be at sort of like a slight angle leaning over, and you'd be contracting the hamstrings. On a mermaid curl, you need to support yourself upright, so the body is upright, so that when you curl, there's an immense amount of pressure pushed back onto the hamstrings. Now, what this will mean is that you will not be able to lift the weight that you would normally lift on a lying leg curl. In fact, you'll be lucky if you get 10 to 20% of the weight you normally lift. However, the contraction you'll get and the stress that you'll get on the hamstring because of the body position will be incredible, and you'll feel this as soon as you do it. The first rep that you do this, you'll feel this. Now, I use this with, say, people who are having trouble engaging their hamstrings, having trouble feeling their hamstrings. I use it a lot with women because the way this hits is more towards the top of the hamstring near the glute, and some women have trouble with getting so you want the sort of the shape going from the glute and then out from the hamstring. So this does help with glute development for, say, bikini athletes or wellness athletes, but actually it's a good one for anybody to use. It helps you engage the hamstring, it helps you get that warm-up feel and get you ready for the workout. So mermaid curl is definitely something I would do at the beginning of the workout to warm up your legs ready for the bigger lifting stuff that's going to come later on. So the mermaid curls, that's number 1. High and wide leg press. Now, the reason I incorporated this one into this video sequence is that to do this sort of exercise, to do this position, you would normally have to have a sumo deadlift position. The problem with is a lot of people can't do sumo deadlift because of a lower back issue or maybe other issues, knee issues, whatever else. So I looked at a different way to get that sort of movement, which is a high wide foot position or wide foot position where you're able to push back through the legs. So sumo deadlift is one way of doing that, and that's an exercise I do normally with a bar. But if you do a high and wide leg press on a leg press machine, you can get a really deep stretch onto the hamstrings when you push down. Now you've got to be careful for this exercise that your quad does not take over, because the instinct you'll have is to press through the quad. Now the way that you do that, the way that you make sure that the hamstring takes most of the pressure here, is when you are coming down with the sled, what you want to do is think yourself as a coiled spring when you're coming back, and what you want to try and do, the feeling you want to get, is you're trying to push yourself backwards rather than trying to push the weight out, because then if you try and push yourself backwards, you'll engage slightly different. Push your heels down and that will push through the sort of back of the leg. Yes, you are still going to engage your quad, but you can get the hamstrings and glutes to fire more effectively by thinking that way. So push yourself backwards rather than trying to push the weight upwards. And also I would suggest with this exercise is when you're doing it, when you come up to the top, try not to hold it at the top. I know on the video I probably have held it for the purposes of demonstration, but actually when I'm doing this with clients, we hold at the bottom. So what we do is we allow the weight to come down, we pause for a second so that we can gauge through the hamstrings and glutes rather than the quads. We kick out, and as soon as we get to the top, we allow the weight to drop again. That's so you can't lock out the quads at the top, and you're always taking the pressure back through the hamstrings. So although on the video it might show me that I'm doing the lockout at the top or the hold at the top, that's just for demonstration of the exercise. What you actually want to get to is pausing at the bottom, driving out and then coming back down, driving out and coming back down. That's the way to do it, really, for full effectiveness. So the video is just for demonstration. That's the way you should do it. Now that exercise is a really good one, especially if you're looking for an alternative to, say, sumo deadlifts, because if you've got an injury or something, or just on its own, because you can get a fairly decent amount of weight on this exercise, and it's one that I would definitely incorporate into a lot of my hamstring training. I would say probably 3 out of 4 workouts feature this as part of it in some degree, either at the end or towards the beginning. Third one is dumbbell RDLs, so Romanian deadlifts done with a dumbbell. Now, though this might sound like a conventional exercise, it's, I would do that anyway as an alternative to normal bar RDLs. Yes, you would. What I would say though is when I'm doing dumbbell RDLs, I can get a different position, because on a bar position, your arms are in front of you, so that you've always got that pull forward, which you're almost fighting to sort of pull backwards against. With a dumbbell, you've still got to, obviously, you've got to balance the dumbbells, which is hard enough, and then you can allow the weight to come down to your side, almost like if you're holding a trap bar, that sort of, or a hex bar, you might want to call it, that sort of position. But you can get that hamstring movement. And I find by holding the dumbbells to the side rather than to the front, I can get a different feeling coming through the hamstrings. The other thing about doing a dumbbell RDL is that you can pull through different areas. So you can, although the demonstration video is going to show doing the normal dumbbell RDL, you can actually target the dumbbell RDL for glutes by, when you're pulling through, you squeeze through the glutes, and actually you almost round your shoulders slightly forward at the top, so that the pressure is going through and you have to erect yourself with the glutes rather than pulling through the back. So you can edit it slightly so you can get a bit more focus onto the glutes. Now that exercise, if I can't get it onto this video, will be in my exercise library on YouTube that you can search for. But I would highly recommend, if you're looking for something else to target your glutes, maybe that's an exercise to incorporate as well, because you can get a decent amount of weight and it almost simulates a hip thrust type movement without maybe the bar coming across your hip. So it's a good movement to incorporate if you're looking for an alternative for that. But we're on hamstrings, so we'll talk about hamstrings. So dumbbell RDL, something I would definitely recommend. The balance and the stress involved in holding 2 heavy dumbbells. For example, I can get a 3 to 4 plate RDL quite easy. I used to be able to get a bit more of that in my heyday, but I'm 40 now, so I don't go push for the maximum reps. But I can get like a 3 to 4 plate, which is like 140, 180 RDL on a bar. When I'm doing the dumbbells, I can only normally get up to about 60 without it causing sort of real issues in my lower back. Now, obviously the weight's different there, but the way it's distributed is different. And I do feel when I'm pulling through that I'm engaging a bit more with the hamstrings because of the position of the dumbbell. dumbbell. So I would highly recommend you try it, put it into your into your workout as an alternative. A good superset here is to do the dumbbell RDLs and then combine that with the superset, the high and wide leg press. That is an absolute killer, and something you should try. I've done that when I've been competing before, when I haven't been able to lift as much weight, but I'm looking for more volume overload. That is an absolute killer exercise. Or you could combine it with a dumbbell sumo deadlift for hitting the glutes a bit more. So a lot of options there. And if you are in a busy gym, you can get away with a lot more with the dumbbells rather than going from machine to machine. The number 4 is GHRs. The GHRs are glute ham raise. Now you might say, oh, I haven't got a GHR machine in my gym, so I can't do that. Wrong, because when I started doing GHRs, I used to do it off a lat pull down machine in my gym, which didn't have a GHR. I didn't have a lot of things actually when I was training in Bristol 10-15 years ago, something like that. Actually, it was 15 years because the gym's been open 10 years. Sorry about that. So yeah, it was a long time ago. I forget my age sometimes. So the GHR, I saw a pro bodybuilder do it on one of his videos. Can't remember who now, sorry about that. But they were doing it off a lat pull down machine, and I will load both videos up here so you can see how to do it. Now, the way I would say to do GHR if you're a bodybuilder is to do it with a pole. The reason for this is not because it's easy, although it is easier to do it with a pole. The reason is because with a pole, you can focus on the balance required by just holding the tiptoes of your hat or the tips of your fingers on the pole for balance. And you can actually pull the contraction harder through using the pole. Now, I can do both exercises. I can do it with a pole, I can do it free weight, but I do tend to find that doing it free weight, obviously I fatigue faster doing that, but also I do find that there's a little bit more pull on my back, and potentially I don't feel it on my hamstrings as much, although it's still a very good exercise. When I do it with the pole and I'm looking at doing more reps and more volume and squeezing the muscle through the hamstring a bit more, I find I get a slightly different feeling from that. And if you are starting off with GHR, I would absolutely recommend you use a pole, because it's an incredibly powerful thing to be able to pull your own body weight up backwards. You won't be able to do it the first time unless you're very, very powerful on your hamstrings, but the satisfaction of actually being able to do it yourself after a while is incredible. What I would say is, if you're trying to do a GHR for the first time, when you're watching a video, it might not be obvious what the technique is, and maybe people don't say what it is. What people try to do is they try to lift themselves back up. So what you generally tend to find is people do like a reverse sit-up almost. They're trying to lift themselves up, which means they pull with their back, not with their hamstrings. The technique is actually, when you're at the extended position, is to try and curl your heels towards your glutes, because that will engage the hamstrings. And although you're trying to do this, your body can't move, so it does this instead. So you actually pull yourself, because you're short on the hamstring, your body erects itself. So that is the secret to doing this exercise. I see a lot of people trying to do it and they can't get anywhere with it. As soon as you say, do that, it comes straight away. So that is the secret to doing this exercise, is to try and pull your legs towards your glutes rather than trying to lift your body up. It's a different way of feeling it. Same as the high and wide leg press. You've got to think about the feeling, what you're trying to do. Think about doing that rather than trying to lift yourself up, and you'll get a lot more out of this exercise. It's a very good exercise. You can do it on a lat pull down machine or a similar setup. I'll post both the videos here. If you're listening on the podcast, it won't make any sense, go and watch the video, and then you'll see it and see what I'm talking about. And the last exercise is a single leg curl. Now, you can do this on a number of different exercises, on different machines, I should say. At my gym, I'm quite fortunate because I've spent my money into my leg kick, because I love my leg training. So I do have a single leg curl machine. So if you've got one of those, you can use that. If you have a leg extension machine, you can use the leg extension machine to do a standing leg curl. I'll try and post a video of that up here as well. And you can also do a single leg curl on a lying leg curl machine. And I've definitely got a video for that, so I will post this up as well. Now, when you're doing a single leg curl on a lying leg curl machine, there is 2 ways you can do it. You can do it where you're just in the traditional position, just lift one leg at a time. I generally do alternates, so one leg isn't hanging around for ages. So I do one up, down, swap over, one up, one down. You can do it obviously with 10 one side, 10 the other side. The other way of doing it is to stand slightly off the leg press, so that say if you're on the left hand side, the left hand leg goes where the right hand leg would normally be. It will make sense if you watch the video, and then you lean over and curl that way. That is an incredibly tough exercise to do. You have to really drop the weight down to do it, but the pull you'll get from your leg is incredible, and it's something that I do every now and again just to spice things up a little bit. But the single leg curl is really one of the most underrated exercises you can do, because so many people just do it together because they're not thinking about how the legs work, and I'll just do leg curls, fine. The problem is that if you're always doing both legs together, there's always going to be one leg which is stronger than the other, and so you're always going to get that weakness. Now, why this might not matter for, say, leg curl or something, if you're coming, say, do RDLs or something like that, where you absolutely really need to pull with everything you've got, you might find that your weight is limited. The weight that you can pull, I should say, is limited, because both legs aren't the same strength. So I would absolutely recommend, if you're not doing it already, go and do it. Do single leg exercises. So I do single leg press for the quads. I do single leg curls for the hamstrings. You know, you have to do these sort of single movements, because if you don't, you're never going to get this balance across the body, and you'll always have one side that's stronger than the other. That's quite natural to have that. It's quite natural to have one side that's stronger than the other, but there shouldn't be a massive disparity. Now, certainly when I bought my my isolateral leg press for my gym, where you can actually press each sled individually, when I started doing single leg press on that, I really did see the differences, how the strength of my legs were. And the same when I was doing single leg curl, there was a huge disparity between what I could lift on one leg and what I could lift with the other. Now there isn't so much, because I've trained them both independently. But if you are just doing double leg curls or double leg extensions all the time, you're going to have that imbalance, and you need to correct that if you want to get the most out of your workouts. So those are the 5 exercises that you might want to incorporate into your hamstring training. Again, these are not exercises that should replace things like RDLs, like bar RDLs, or conventional lying leg curls or seated leg curls, but they are things that you might want to incorporate in to give yourself an extra edge in your training, make it a bit more enjoyable, and make your hamstring training a bit more exciting as well. Because one of the main enemies of progress is boredom in your workouts. You go in, you go through the motions, you don't really care about your workout, just getting it done so you can tick a box, and then you go out again. You're not really thinking about the exercise. These exercises will help you think about how you're engaging the muscle more. Now, some of them you won't need to be using massive amounts of weight on, and that's fine, because as bodybuilders, we're looking to stimulate the muscle. We're not looking to lift the maximum amount of weight. Always remember that when you're going into the gym. If you're a bodybuilder, and by a bodybuilder I mean anybody who is trying to build their muscles bigger as a main priority, not someone who's got strength as their main priority, like a powerlifter or strength athlete. I'm talking about a bodybuilder who wants to get bigger muscles. That's anybody, not just competitive bodybuilders, anybody looking to build muscle. If bodybuilding is your aim, you want to be thinking about the tension on the muscle and how you can contract that muscle through tension to stimulate failure, which then stimulates growth. That's the key for bodybuilding. It's not how much weight can I lift so that everyone looks at me in the gym. That's not the way to think. That's the ego way to think. That's the injury way to think. And I know, because I've been there. So please take my advice from an old dog. Don't listen to your ego. Think about how your muscle can react to this training. And hamstring one, you definitely don't want to tear a hamstring by doing too much weight. That's something, thankfully, I've never had that injury, but I know people who have, and it is crippling. So don't be one of those people. If you get into that last rep and it's like, oh, I could just want to get one more. If something's twinging, stop, because that's what's going to be causing the injury. And it's not about getting that one extra rep when you're a bodybuilder, just about stimulating the muscle. So I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching. If you got to the end, that's probably about 15 minutes or so. I don't know, I haven't measured it. So I hope you got something in this video. If you did, please share with your friends, comment below, do everything you can to help my channel grow, help get more people this free information. Got a question? Let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions and do more topics, more videos that people want to hear. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.